now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Welcome, people. It is the summer time. Will Smith vibes, guys. Please make sure you smash a like. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. Obviously, it's the transfer season. It is now upon us. There's going to be so many transfers linked. Don't worry. Liverpool will be linked, you know, with Lionel Messi. I've heard Neymar might potentially go to Manchester United. God, there's so many different deals. You know, will Osimhen make the move to Chelsea? We know that they are looking for a striker. He might even potentially move to a Bayern Munich. You know, so many different deals are going to be done this summer. I think there's going to be a few shocks along the way. So obviously I've sat there and I thought to myself, you know what, let's take a look, you know, at some players. But guys, if you obviously already follow the channel, you already know I do my own like scout watches and stuff like that. Now, this is like my Liverpool summer transfer targets. And as you can see, realistic ones that I think, okay, we could probably do that deal. There might be one or two potentially that are completely, you know, non-starters, but I'm trying to keep it as realistic as humanly possible. Players that I like first and foremost. So obviously I've got a bias. There's a bit of a biasness to it, but they are players that I do think Liverpool should just take a look at. You know, whether they decide, you know, to go out there and actually really pursue this kind of player or these kind of players, you know, it remains to be seen. But they are players that I do genuinely believe, okay, they could work in the team. Now, whether that mean they come in as a starter, you know, to replace one of the players we've got there, or whether I just think they'd be a very good option alongside, you know, the other players. So we're going to be talking about so many different players, but I didn't want people to get confused with this and my scout watches. The scout watches will be more based upon players that Liverpool have actually been linked with, and then, you know, taking a deeper dive into them. This is just going to be more my personal summer transfer targets. Quite a lot of people have asked me about it. Who would I like to sign for Liverpool and blah, blah, blah. You know, all of these kind of various different things. And I think the players that we're going to speak about, you know, in the coming weeks and months, these are the kind of players that I like. And I think, yeah, can kind of fit into the team. So today is the first episode. I hope everybody is going to enjoy their summer. So yeah, today's first episode, we're looking at Goncalo Inacio, currently plays for Sporting over in the Portuguese league. A lot of people already know who he is. You've seen the guy already, especially this or last season, whatever you want to call it. You've seen him playing for Sporting, playing for Portugal as well, or has played, should I say, for Portugal. Yeah, he's a good player. Centre-back, left-sided centre-back, left-footed. Comfortable on the ball, good dribbler, good passer of the ball as well. And I think the reason why I'm looking at him, and again, like I said, a lot of you already know, he's not a new name or anything like that. A lot of you have seen him. You've seen what he's kind of all about. And with Liverpool playing this whole new formation, new style, and whatever that they're trying to implement, I think at the moment we've got Andrew Robertson in that position. And I think most of us can probably agree he's not really the one that we want in that position. Not to say we don't want him in the squad, even though I did hear, you know, a few rumors of Real Madrid. Not to say we don't want him in the squad. I just don't think he should be the starter. I personally believe that, you know, next season, Liverpool have to get it right with the transfers that they do in the summer. I'm not saying you need to go out and sign 10 players, but you definitely need to just make sure that certain areas of the pitch are sorted out, and then you can go from there, and then you can obviously keep improving from each window. So get a few of them in, get the most important ones in now, which I think are centre-back, and the two left centre-back, right centre-back, and a couple of midfielders. I think that's 4 positions. I can't see why we wouldn't be signing at least 4 to 5 players at least. And then if you then want to improve upon the squad in terms of the quality and the depth, then yes, of course, if people then start leaving or people want to leave, that's then a different story. You then reevaluate from there. But I wanted to talk, obviously, first episode, I said, you know what, let's start with the centre back position, because it is a position that we need to sort out. It's a position we need to sort out. We've had links to, obviously, Jurriën Timber. He's more of the right centre back / right back kind of role, but I wanted to look at the left sided centre back role first. Now, when we're looking at someone like Inacio, you can see here, as I said, centre back, can play left back as well. Again, that kind of helps us. He's probably not as intense, I would say, as a Andrew Robertson. He's not someone who he can do it, but that's not his makeup. Isn't to bomb up and down the left hand side and stuff like that, especially with the way that Sporting play. If you see here, kind of formations that they obviously play. They obviously got the 3 at the back, 3-4-3 formation. They've got the width that they need from their wingers and obviously their midfielders already. So that back 3 kind of stays as a back 3. They're obviously fluid in what they can do. You can see here in the first picture, he's obviously in the middle of that back 3. So he's not even playing on the left-hand side, which is really, really good to see. And then obviously on this one here, you can see he's playing on that left-hand side. So it's the sheer fact that he can kind of play both roles and he seems to be comfortable in those roles. That's one of the reasons why I looked at him and I thought, okay, pretty decent. And then he can still play on the right-hand side as well. He can use both feet. He's obviously left-footed, but he is comfortable using both feet. Again, that's an area where I don't really know what his valuation would be. I believe he might have a release clause in his contract. I don't really know what that is at this current moment in time. But I think he's the type of defender that we should be trying to go for, especially when we're trying to elevate the team. Robbo's 29 at the end of the day. Not saying that is old at all, but for the type of player that he is, he's getting on a little bit. He's not going to have the same level of intensity. And we've seen with a Milner, we've seen with a Jordan Henderson, what that will kind of do in a general sense. But obviously this is Inacio, obviously in a back 3. When he's in a back 4, again, playing in that center of defense, can play on the right hand side, can then obviously play on that left hand side. So it's the comfortability that I like. You can move this guy across the back 4, in case there's an injury or in case, we're resting someone, and then you might want to play Robbo. For example, you might want to play Robbo, at left side as centre back in a certain game, which is absolutely fine, because against different teams, we require different options. Something that I think Liverpool have lacked for years is having the flexibility and the fluidity to just be able to change it. Like I said, I'm not trying to sit here and say, sell Robbo tomorrow. Robbo's been a fantastic servant of the football club, but we need to have options. We need to be able to switch it around. We go back to Manchester City. They've had a Kanji there. They've had John Stones there, Kyle Walker there, Ake there, but these guys swap. 1 minute Akanji's playing left-sided centre-back. Next minute he's playing right-sided centre-back. I'm doing this video obviously before the end of the season to obviously post out after the season. So I don't know what's going to happen with Manchester City and their title and stuff like that, with the Champions League and FA Cup. But looking at it now, it seems to have worked wonders for them. And if we're now trying to copy that, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but then we need to have the same level of flexibility that these kind of teams, already have. So, that's kind of one of the reasons why I decided to, take a little look at someone like Inacio. I just think it's that versatility, the comfortability that he has on the ball, the kind of movements he does make whilst he's in defense. He's a very, very good player. And if we look here at his heat map for the season, you can see obviously mostly down that left-hand side, but again, down that right-hand side as well, which obviously just bodes well. If I'm being totally honest with you, these are all plus points. I'm not saying he's the best defender out there. And something that I heard, and whilst I was listening, and big up Hassan on This Is Football, listening to his channel the other day, and he was speaking about the players that Liverpool are linked with and stuff like that. It's difficult because some of them, we're not linked to players, would I say, that immediately you go, boom, here we go, this guy is the guy today kind of thing. We're kind of linked with, and Inacio for me falls into that kind of bracket. I don't feel like he's a player that is instantly gives me the vibes of like, yes, he's the one, he's the Messiah. Like, I don't get really that kind of feeling. Not to say he's obviously poor, but just I don't get that kind of vibe. The vibe I get is these are players who, you don't know, but you're confident at the bare minimum that they will go on to become the player that you need them to become, in your team. So I'm looking at Inacio, your Antonio Silvas and stuff like that. Lukiba from Leipzig, Hitsape from, I think, Leverkusen, those kind of ball playing centre backs who might not be, they might be good in the future, they might not be good, we don't really know, it just depends on the team and stuff like that, but they're all young enough to be able to nurture them into the defenders that you kind of need. Now, this is obviously from Foot the Ball, the website, scout kind of website, so guys, make sure you check them out. They were just talking a little bit about, Inacio at the beginning of the season. So some of the stats and stuff that you might see will be obviously that they talk about are from last season. So the 21-22 season, as opposed to 22-23. But you're just talking really about, his comfortability and stuff like that. When he's on the ball, when in possession of the ball, he constantly scans his surroundings to find the best available pass. Not only is he safe and distributing, but when given the opportunity and freedom to, he is capable of dissecting opposition lines with progressive passes. I know people don't like this because it's just the buzzwords that we use in today's day and age, but these are the kind of things that we should be looking at in the type of defenders, that we're potentially looking to sign. Inacio is the instant nation of a ball-playing centre-back, primarily a ball carrier, good with both feet, with the left obviously being his dominant, exceptional reading space around opponents when ball carrying, and has the perfect physique to be a mobile and incredibly agile central defender. It's like I mentioned before, he's going to be a guy who is comfortable both on the right and the left and in the center, as I showed you before, with the different type of positions that he can actually play. Again, bodes well. Is that something that we need? Unfortunately, at Liverpool, I think we're quite stuck in terms of the players that we do have because they're not all comfortable. For example, not to say you have to be. Certain players just should play in that one position, but Van Dijk, never seen him play right centre back for Liverpool anyway. Never seen it. So who knows if he could ever? Maybe he should be playing, in that position whilst we get an Inacio out on the left, and then maybe put Konate in the middle. Is that something that we could potentially do? These are little things that I think about. I'm not no tactician kind of guy. And I've got my badges, but I don't have the Pep Guardiola knowledge or anything like that. I'm just always just trying to think of new ideas, different things. Is there a different way that we can be playing? Is there maybe putting players into different positions within their defense or in the midfield or attack? Will that potentially work? Could we potentially see a different result? Because at the moment, Liverpool are so predictable. That is a massive problem for me, is that Liverpool are super predictable. So teams know what they're going to do. They know what to expect. Whereas other teams, your Brightons, your Manchester Cities, your Arsenals, they're the kind of three. Even to a degree, Aston Villa this season under Unai Emery, they're quite unpredictable in what they're going to do. Leverkusen over in the Bundesliga, these kind of teams, they use so many different formations, but the style and essence is still the same, but you catch teams off guard. So and I think that's something that Liverpool need to be looking at. We can't keep being so traditional and just so boring and safe, because once someone clocks what we're good at, that's it. Do you know what I mean? We all know Trent is the guy. So if Trent is our chief creator, if you kind of stop him, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult for Liverpool to be able to advance forward and be able to play the football that they want to play. You look here per game he records. This is again in the 21-22 season. Per game, he records 84.1 touches, highlighting just how crucial he is to Sporting's possession play. They are a possession-based team, and also representing the fact that from deep he is partially their main source of ball progression, registering 0.3 key passes per game, whilst also successfully completing 91% of his passes, the fifth highest passing rate in the Portuguese league back in 21-22. Again, he's a very, very young player. So when you're looking at that, and again, this is me talking from, a couple of seasons ago. So the sheer fact that he had this in his locker, from a couple of seasons back, and he's now grown even more so into his role. I'm now looking at him, he's 21 years of age now. This would have been back when he was, 19 years of age. He's growing into that role. He's growing into the modern day defender, or centre back, shall I say, that we all kind of want to see. And if we are choosing to play in this kind of style, then he has to be a player that really we should be kind of going hammer and tongs for. Now, let's take a look here. If we take a look here at him versus, I wanted to just see what he would be like up against, the other kind of left-sided centre backs, players that other teams are looking at, and obviously one of them was Gvardiol. And I said I just wanted to see what he was like up against a Gvardiol, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether in terms of the fee, should we waste time even looking at him? Should we just go out and get a Gvardiol? And obviously this is his stats here, as obviously you guys can see. Possession lost. He comes out kind of on top there. Gvardiol obviously got the goals. Chances created the same. Passes attempted, they're relatively the same, but Gvardiol comes out on top. Passes completed, again, relatively the same. Pass accuracy, the same. Or close. Inacio just about edges it. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay. Again, I'm thinking of the fee that it would take to get a Gvardiol. But Inacio, this is obviously from the 22-23 season for both players. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay. Through balls attempted, Inacio got that on lock. Passes completed in the opposition half, he's got that on lock. Forward passes, got that. Short passes completed, got that. So again, progressive. Is that what we need? I'm not necessarily concerned with, again, having a Robbo who's a bit ill-disciplined and, bombing forward, but are you really doing the job that I kind of need you to do? Aerial duels, he's got that on lock. The dual success, you can see that there. Ground duels, he's got that on lock. So again, I'm looking at all of this, and this is just statistical. Obviously, make sure you go out there and check him out for yourself. But when you're looking at that, it does bode well because of how much it would cost to even get a Gvardiol in. You're talking about up north at least of 80-90 million, I reckon. RB Leipzig are probably looking at, potentially to sign a player like that. I say that now, but Man City will probably go out there and sign it for 60 million and we'll all be here scratching our heads. Now, taking a look at him versus Robbo, what's he like up against a Robbo? I could be just chatting absolute waffle. Ball recoveries, just about edges it in Robbo's favour. Possession lost. Again, Robbo's a player, if you look at the statistics from each game, because of Robbo's nature, he is probably inevitably going to lose the ball. Whereas I feel like Inacio is a lot more safer. He's a lot more smarter with some of the passes that he may make and the passes that he will try in games. Whereas Robbo's a lot more daring. So it's one of those kind of things. And again, you can even see by the chances created, Robbo is obviously going to dwarf it because of the type of player that he is. So in that regard, that's really, really good if that's what you require from a left centre back. But personally, I don't feel like I need him to be that adventurous, so to speak, especially when you're well, to be honest, I was going to say our right centre back, but it's usually just having the two players at the back there who end up just standing there, by themselves. Passes attempted. Inacio's coming out on top, completed, the accuracy of the passes, So again, like I said, that's probably more down to if I'm looking at it in Robbo's favour, that's just probably more down to the sheer fact that he's just more daring. He's just a lot more daring in terms of what he's trying to do. But then look at this long pass accuracy, absolutely dwarfs. Robertson, through balls attempted, passes in own half, opposition, forward passes. Forward passes I found quite interesting. I would have thought that Robbo would have come out on top in that regard. So I was a little bit intrigued when I saw that. That one kind of threw me off a little bit because I had Robbo in my head. I was thinking, surely he makes more. But then again, the way that Sporting play, that possession-based game, they do make a lot of passes in game. So is it just the sheer fact because of their style of play, whereas Liverpool are more of a direct long ball team? So they're just trying to get the ball forward as quickly as possible, as opposed to just trying to keep possession with intent. Duels contested, Inacio is more of a centre-back anyway, so maybe that might work in his favour. But because he's so comfortable on that left-hand side, you can see here, tackles made. Even take-ons completed, I was shocked by it. I thought that Robbo might even come out on top, in that. Take-on success. Robbo's only at 42.5. Inacio's at 88.89. That is crazy. That is crazy, man. That is something, definitely something to look into. Definitely something to look into. And this isn't trying to bash Robbo or anything like that. This isn't trying to say, oh yeah, Robbo's shit, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, Robbo can still be an option, but I'd prefer to have Inacio, in the team. Moving forward, aerial duels, 1 contested, success rate. He's coming out on top in all of that. Ground duels, Robbo's obviously just a tad bit better at it than Inacio. And then, yeah, your ground duel success, even though he is a little bit better. Clearly not, to be honest, because the success rate of Inacio, but it could just be just in terms of the volume of numbers, interceptions, blocks. Ignacio's kind of got it all there, man. He's kind of got it all there. And if you take a look here, just it's kind of statistics for the season in terms of where he kind of ranks, in assists, he ranks in the 99th percentile for centre backs, this season. Shot creating actions, 98, passes attempted, progressive passes, progressive carries, successful take-ons. There's a lot of these here that I'm looking at and I'm like, is that what we technically need in order for us to be able to utilize the formation a lot better? Tackles, not really up there. He's only in the 68th. Interceptions in 81. Blocks and clearances, he is quite low at. But again, is that just due to the sheer fact that the team that he's playing in, they have the ball more often than not? So if you've got the ball more often than not, you're keeping possession more often than not, is it realistically going to kind of matter, kind of thing? And you can see these are the kind of positions that he does like to take up. This is obviously Man City versus Sporting in the Champions League. And you can just, it's just these kind of like little things. And like I said, I'm not here to advocate for selling a Robbo. I'm not here to say, yeah, we got to get rid of him, blah, blah, blah. He's a dead player, et cetera, et cetera. It's all about having the quality in depth, I believe, for next season. Moving into the season. For me, I'm not too concerned with how many players you do sign. I'm more concerned with other players that you are signing. Are they the right fit first and foremost? But also, are they quality? Are they quality players? Are they coming in? And as an example, if you're going to sign a DM, or forget the DM. Obviously, we're looking. By the time of this video, I don't know if Liverpool will or won't have signed like a McAllister. But let's say a McAllister, for example, is he coming straight into the team, which then knocks away whoever we've got in that position already? If so, brilliant. Because then that means the player that you originally wanted there, let's say Curtis Jones, at least he then drops to the bench. But you don't mind that. You don't mind having to swap between the two. It's not going to be too much of an issue if we had to say, but if Jones can keep up this level of consistency, which obviously remains to be seen, I don't mind him being in that position. Ignacio at the back there, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, if he's there on that left-sided centre-back role and Robbo's on the bench and you sell like a Simicast, for example, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because then you've still got Robbo who can do what he can do. And when we need to potentially switch from a back three to a four in other games, which I think Liverpool need to start doing, having the fluidity, having the flexibility, being able to adapt in games, something that Jurgen Klopp really, really does severely lack, is that adaptation in games. We could be a danger next season. We could be a danger. But again, it just requires all of these kind of, I'm not saying these are big things, but they're not small, they're not small things. At the same time, they're things that it can go either way. It can realistically just go either way when it does come to those kind of margins. And I think if we're able to sort that out, if we're able to pattern that up properly, I can't see why Liverpool shouldn't be in a position to be able to attack whatever competition, for next season, depending on if we get the right players first and foremost, and we sort out the right areas. Obviously, we're looking at the midfield, and rightly so. But are we looking at the centre-back situation? Are we getting the right centre-backs in? Or are we just getting centre-backs in who are not, Liverpool, sometimes I feel like in recent months and years and stuff like that, I feel like when we're looking at certain players and when we sign certain players, they're not really here to upset the apple cart. They're just kind of here and they can play there, every now and again and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, but are we looking at successors for a Van Dijk? Or are we going to be in a situation where Van Dijk's 36 and we're still relying on him, praying that, he can still be the player he was 6, 7, 8 years ago kind of thing? If Konate is not doing well, let's rectify that. We ain't got time to be sitting around. That obviously doesn't just come from Klopp. That obviously comes from the board as well. So I'm not just placing all of it on Jurgen Klopp because he doesn't provide the funds. But we need to be trying to be a step ahead, be proactive instead of reactive. Be proactive instead of reactive. And that's something that, I think Liverpool, just need to sort out. But yes, that is the first episode of my summer realistic transfer targets. Today we took a quick look at Goncalo Inacio of Sporting. Good player, good defender. I believe Liverpool should potentially be in for him. Let me know what you guys obviously think in the comments in regards to him. Is he a player that you think we should sign? Or should we be looking at someone else? Let me know other players that you guys like. I'll be dropping some more throughout the weeks and the coming months. Make sure you smash that like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm G, and we are outie.